I'm Franca Gilbert. I'm the French teacher at Franklin Academy, and this is
Joy Clark, and I teach geometry at Franklin Academy. I teach other math classes too, but geometry is my session.
So Joy and I have been a team now. This is our third time together presenting, I think. And even though she's a math teacher and I'm a foreign language teacher, we like each other, and we bounce ideas back and forth with each other, and I enjoy Joy very much, and so do her students. But first we want to find out about you guys. So this is supposed to be a session for high school and college level instructors. So how many high school teachers do we have? Any university level? And really, Joy and I don't want to force anything on you. We've come up with what works for us in our classroom. And like Joy said to me yesterday, you know, if you're looking for something, there's an app out there for that. And the idea is that, you know, whatever app you need, it's out there. It's just a matter of finding it. So we've got a few that we've selected, and that we're going to go through and demonstrate for you. And maybe you guys want to work with it. So we want to find out what you want from us. So would you like to have, near the end of the session, some time where you can play around with the app and maybe come up with a few assignments or a few ways to demonstrate with your students? How many people are totally unfamiliar with apps and would like some time to play around with them? Anybody? Nobody? All right. We're flexible.
All right, so just to give you a little background information, our school, I'm sure you know, Franklin Academy, started off with a one-to-one iPad initiative with just one group of students, and then it branched out to the grade level, and then it branched out to the entire high school. So now all of our students, starting on day one, come in with their iPads ready to go. So of course that was a transition for me as an educator. I've been teaching for 11 years now. And you know, you give me an overhead projector, you know, and some markers and a whiteboard, and I'm good to go. So when they, you know, put this device in my hand and put an Apple TV in my classroom, it was a big adjustment for me to figure out how to use it and make it work along with what the students do. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, question. What was the plan? Like, did the grade 9s start with the iPads, and did they lease the iPads? And what was?
Good question. They started off with just one AP history class.
Actually a couple. They had like maybe a group of 20, I think.
Students. So literally in the school, there were only 20 kids who had the iPad. Then from there, we gave it to just the seniors.
Yes.
And then from there, kind of trickled down.
Did they lease it, or did you?
They sign a contract that, you know, there's like, they have insurance that covers it, but they take it home with them every single day, but it's not.
Does the school own them, or do they own them?
The school
Yes.
owns it.
Okay.
The school owns it. At the end of the year, they turn it back in and they wipe it clean and they give it to the next set of students. So, no, they don't get to leave with it, unfortunately, but they do get to take it home every day until the end of the year. Yes, ma'am.
So you said at the end of the year, so your 9th graders don't keep it all the way through their senior year?
No, they turn it back in so that it's wiped clean, and then they get it again at the beginning of the next school year, but it doesn't travel with them from grade level to grade level. They get one every year, but it might not be the same device.
Do they get their own iTunes account or their own?
That's not even on their iPad. They can't download their own apps. They can't add anything to it. Teachers at the beginning of the school year request apps that they want their students to have. And then they have like a certain set of, you know, the suite of like keynote and pages and numbers and that already come with the device. But can you guys even access the iTunes store on your device? They can't even access it. So they don't get their own iTunes account. They don't get to add anything to the device that's not already put up there for them. And they just got the camera. We had even disabled the camera and they couldn't use the camera. So I think they just got access to the camera. Yes,
So
sir.
do they have their own iCloud thing they keep their information on, so when they turn their iPad in,
Yes.
they completely lose it.
Right. So they don't like erase it, they do have their own iCloud. Lots of them have a Dropbox account so that they can access it from any device, but it's up to them to make sure they save it somewhere where they can access it later, because we're not going to go back and say, you know, you saved your history paper from 3 months ago. So, any questions? Anyone else have any other questions? So after we implemented it, and I teach mainly 9th and 10th graders, so for a long time my students didn't even have one. It was just the seniors that had one. So then when they implemented school-wide, I then had to make adjustments. And then I came in over the summer and they removed my whiteboards and put the Apple TV in place of it. So I was like, bring me my whiteboards back, please. They gave those back. The Apple TV is still in my room. And so I had to learn how to use this device. But anyway, doing the legwork, and yes, it is work. So you always have to start from somewhere and be willing to put in the time. But once you've got it going, it's smooth sailing from there. So that's our goal, hopefully, is to make it smooth sailing.
And one of the things that Joy does every year, the kids have to sign an iPad agreement, but Joy takes it one step further. And I'm going to show you this, iPad agreement that she has with her students, and she sends this home. Go ahead, Joy.
Because one of my biggest concerns, of course, being the old school teacher that I am, is classroom management. I need you to do what I tell you to do when I tell you to do it. And so giving a child what to me is, basically a giant, texting device and saying, have at it, you have to have some, sort of expectation set up for what you expect them to do. So like they signed an agreement with the school that says, if you damage the device or you use it inappropriately, these are the consequences. But I also gave my students a technology questionnaire and usage agreement because I wanted to know how familiar were they with it and what did they expect me to do with it, and we went from there. Of course, the first question was, do you have a reliable internet connection outside of school? Because it doesn't do much if it's not connected to the internet. You can type documents and save them, but as far as sending them or doing activities, you need an internet connection. And there are those of us who don't have internet at home, so you need to be aware of what your students have available to them. How much time is reasonable to spend on homework? That was just to see where their heads were at. But I do ask some questions about, how would you like to use the iPad? And then question number 6 was define misuse of your iPad. That kind of put the onus on the students to decide what they're going to use it for and what they're not going to use it for, and then what the consequences are going to be. So if they define misuse, and we all kind of come to an agreement about what that means, there's no debate when the misuse happens. You've already kind of established what your expectation is for the use of the iPad in your classroom. So then at the bottom, I have a place for all 3 parties, if you will, to sign. So I'll sign that says I'll use the iPad to implement the new Common Core state standards. And then the student has a statement. They can sign that they are aware that it's meant to be used as an instructional tool and what the consequences are if they misuse the device. And then the parents, to let them know, yes, your child is going to have homework. So if they say, oh, I don't have any, or it's all on my iPad, sometimes it will require their textbook and paper and pencil. Sometimes it will require their iPad, and they will encourage their child to use it as a learning tool. So all 3 parties are involved, and they sign that, and I keep that, on file. And the minute I have a student misuse it, take it away from them for a class period, that's all it takes. They see everyone else with their iPad, and they get the paper copy of the worksheet, makes them feel really bad, they can mess up after that. So that's the thought, because you have to start with managing your classroom with the device. That's my
And this form is posted on our EdModo group.
Feel free to modify it. Yes.
Your first question up there about access, do you have equity issues with your students that don't have internet?
We have a few who don't.
And how do you get around that?
We get around that by, they can come in the morning, they can stay later in the afternoon, and we also have a period in the middle of the day that's called flex. And if they need to, it's a free period. It's a study period for them. It's up to them how they want to use that time. On Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays, they have about 35 minutes, and on Thursdays, they have an hour and a half. So there's plenty of time. Usually if you have, a project, let's say, it'll be due a week out or 2 weeks out, and they'll have time to be able to use the school's resources for the Wi-Fi.
And they also, let me add to that, they also, for instance, so if it's an assignment that they're doing, if they go ahead and download it, load it, and save it in one of their programs, they can still access it at home without being connected to the internet. So they download it at school, and then they can access it at home.
I was just wondering, if a kid has an iPad at home, can you bring it into the school, or do you have to have a school iPad?
I think it has to be a school iPad, and they have the controls over it.
Yes, we did. I think a couple of years ago, I had a student who had his own iPad and had all these apps, and it really kind of took away from what we were trying to do there. So we asked him to do that. Yes, sir.
Are these questions that you go over and have answers to?
Well, I don't say I have the answers to them, but we definitely discuss them as a group so that we can set the expectations for misuse in the classroom. But the funny thing is, I asked, like, what do you think the consequences should be? But then the consequences are listed there, so regardless of what you think they should be, here's what they are.
It's a question, but it's not really a question. I understand, okay.
And in my case, I know I have one particular student with whom I have to revisit this daily. So there are, there's always going to be one guy who doesn't do what he's supposed to do or she's supposed to do, and you have to constantly monitor them. So yes, and that's why I put on there, it is work, because I have to constantly walk around and I'll have to say, okay, show me what have you been doing? Because all they do, they have these, what do you call these, multitasking gestures, right? Yeah. If they do that, then they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing. If they do that when they see you coming, right? So, yes, I do have one or two, but I have to revisit this with everything. Moving on to technology, friend or foe. At our school in particular, this past week has not been a very friendly week for technology. There has been a series of power outages in Wake Forest, which has interfered with our internet connection. So, you have to be flexible, you have to be ready. All of us had to go back to old school, pen and paper, making copies, so we did that for a few days. Thankfully, now it's almost back to the way it was before we had those power outages. But sometimes those things do happen, and you have to be ready to make adjustments. I use the iPad. I use many apps in my room, and I know Ann and Justin both have been, and Maddie, they're all three, or they either are right now or have been French students. And they know that I do it all the time, I use it all the time, and so they have to create multiple accounts for different things. And so for them it was easy because they know how to do stuff. But there are some kids that you have to go back over and over and tell them, okay, you gotta log back in. And I have each kid fill out an index card with all of the accounts that we use, with their user ID and their passcode. And now for Edmodo, I tell them, it doesn't have to be something so secret. It can be your first and last name and and just password, because trust me, nobody is going to go into Edmodo and submit an assignment for you. Right? So, there are some programs where you don't really need to be so secure. Yes, sir.
How much time as a teacher do you think that you invest in either managing or teaching the technology versus teaching your content knowledge and other things? So as you made this transition, let's say I'm no technology now and I want to go technology, what is that going to add to my workload? 5%, 10%, 20%?
It's a process. The first year, I got to say that I probably spent 50% of the time teaching them how to do things the way I wanted them to do it, and 50% content. But now, these guys, Ann, how old were you when you got the iPad? You were in 10th grade?
I was a sophomore.
Yeah, so Ann and Maddie have had them for this is their third year now. So they're very used to it. And that first year when the freshmen come in, and now even our feeder school at the 8th grade level, they get to use the iPad sometime in the classroom. So it's a process, and now I spend very little time stopping and saying, okay, do this, okay, do that. But when we get new students, I'm sorry?
I learn a lot from my kids.
Right.
Hey guys, how do you do this? And they
Yes, right. And they have these little tricks. Oh, Miss Gilbert, look what I found. I'm like, oh, that's cool, thanks. But yeah, it takes time, and it takes organization. So I would say at the onset, it'll take you the most time, but with each year that your students have them, it'll get less and less, and you'll be teaching, there is a place that you'll get to where you're just doing 5% teaching, organizing if you're doing new programs.
So did you integrate that in your lesson planning and just go ahead and say, I'm just not going to get where I need to be by December because I know I've got to do all this, or did you just sort of suck it up?
I just sort of sucked it up. I mean, it's just that, I was already using technology with my computers, and, we had a computer lab. And so for me, it was not a seamless transition, but it was an easy transition. Because as a foreign language teacher, I'm looking for online resources where they can listen, where they can speak. all these kinds of things that are already out there. You don't have to create new material, it's already there.
So that was he's kind of going where I was thinking. I'm a principal currently of a middle school where we're integrating blended learning, and I decided I wanted to sit in this session because if we're trying to make that move to the high school, what would be those key pieces you would like for the middle school students to have as they go into the high school?
So now you want them to be able to, to know how, when you tell them, go to this place and create an account, they need to be able to do that independently. And of course, there's one or two that are going to need your assistance. But for the most part, when I say to my students, even the freshmen that we get, when I say, go get this app, because they'll already have the app, go to this app, create an account. It doesn't have to be secure. It can be your name and just password. And create an account and go and do this for me. So they need to be able to follow directions and know the terminology. Click on the link, download, upload, things like that, the vocabulary that they need to have.
Mr. Hall,
He will be,
he always talks about students being digital natives versus us being digital immigrants. They pick up on stuff like that, and they're always telling me, like, I'll get stuck sometimes and go, how do I get this to happen? How do I get this to go away? How do I get back to the screen now with that? And they're like, oh, just do this, just do that. And I'm like, I don't know that. And they just look at me like, how do you not know that? So they pick up on stuff very quickly. I spend very little time. Like, I scanned a document that I wanted them to open, and I knew it scanned sideways. They were going to have to rotate it. So I'm like, oh, I hope they know how to rotate. I was like, y'all know how to rotate the document? They were like, yes. And we just kept on going. They just rotated it, kept on going.
So is it safe to say that some of the students have learned how to do this while they're using iPhones?
sure, yes.
It's actually a smaller, scaled out version of the iPad. So introducing that to a class, they're probably 2 or 3 steps ahead of you. So it's just going to make things a lot more easy.
Yeah.
It seems very intuitive to them, like almost automatic. And then they'll just help their neighbor. Like if you do have a link that they can't figure out how to rotate the document, the other kid will just lean over and press the button for them and they'll rotate it. They'll do that.
Yeah.
Very little time actually instructing them on how to use the device. They already know how to use the device.
Yes, sir.
How did you convince your staff to do this?
We are the staff.
Yeah, so just
They just said one afternoon, I can remember it was during our spring track out about 3 or 4 years ago, and David Mahaley said, oh, everybody stop by my classroom, by my office, I have a present for you. And so we went down there and he's like, here you go, here's an iPad, and we're like, oh, cool. What's it like? And so he said, start playing around with it and see what you can, start finding things that you can use in your classroom. And, that's what we did. And for me, that was like, I love learning about new stuff. I know that sounds very cliche, but I don't like to do the same thing over and over. And even though I've been a teacher for, I don't know, a long time. Been a French teacher for 7 years, and none of my lessons look the same from year to year. I change them up all the time. So I want to learn new stuff, and and I really took it to heart. To me, that was exciting, and it's really changed the way that I organize things. Because I know Joy and I operate kind of the same way. Our desks are black holes. And I tell my students, don't leave anything on my desk. Because if you do, I cannot guarantee that it will be there when you say I turned it in. You have to give it to me physically. Well, now they can turn in work electronically. And they can't say, oh, my dog ate my homework. Because it'll tell you whether it's there or not, and believe it or not, I still have kids trying to get over on that one where they'll submit something, but it won't be what I asked them to do. It'll be some blank sheet of paper or a broken link to a Dropbox. They're so smart.
But to answer, it was a mandate for us.
Yes.
It was kind of like, here's your device, play with it, and the next year I think we traded in our 1s and got 2s. And then, like I said, I literally came back from summer break and there was an Apple TV up on my wall. So, it was like, here you go, enjoy. But we weren't asked, we were told.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just saying, were there any staff that were
resistant.
Staff,
I would
yes.
say yes, and work it. I mean, to make sure, I mean, you know, if it was an environment that you did not want to teach in, you have the option to go teach elsewhere, but there is no staff member who was like, no, you're not using an iPad in my room, no, we're not using technology, it's actually a part of our
And
contract.
how much professional development did you receive to learn how to do all this?
I personally did not receive any professional development.
I handed the devices. But now we're being offered more, but it's also optional. So a lot of people have gone out on their own, and like even in our, like I just went to the North Carolina Council of Teachers of Mathematics Conference in Greensboro. There were lots of different sessions they had there for iPads. So a lot of teachers are seeking out that professional development on their own.
And of course, like teachers, we plan. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, my perspective is a little bit unique. I've been a parent, like, that's my daughter back there, so she started in this system. I had knew nothing about an iPad, but I'm 49, so I grew up with computers, but not iPads. And then when I began teaching, then I was given an iPad, and I'm like, well, what is this thing? And how do I use it? And she's helped me a lot. But the thing is, you need to go ahead and expect a little bit of frustration. If you've not used this, and you're used to using Windows or something else, it is very different. And you do have to let your brain sort of rewire a little bit. But if you look at it like Ms. Gilbert says, it's an adventure. If you're a lifetime learner and you're going to learn, just look at it like a little adventure, expect a little frustration along the way, and that's okay. But once you sort of figure out, like I've always used programs and this thing with apps. I'm like, what's an app? What is that? Where do I get that? What do you use that for? And my daughter helped me to learn that. But once you sort of figure out that new way of thinking, it's pretty fun. It works. It's good.
I think
It
that was
is
my
a lot of
hardest
fun.
transition was from a PC to a Mac platform. That was probably the hardest transition for me. I was like, what? You're going to take my bio? What? But yeah, so. But we learned.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think that we have to stress as educators, and not just, those of us, because I think everybody gets some information or some resources through the internet, right? I don't think there's a single educator who's not doing that today. So we want to stress the idea of digital citizenship. And what does that mean? That means that we are responsible when we're on the internet, when we don't post things that we wouldn't say out loud to a teacher or to a parent or to a neighbor. We make sure that we don't just go out there and randomly select data or information that is not vetted. Like not too long ago, I had a student who did a research paper for me, and it wasn't any big deal. It was in English, it was level 1. They were out checking out different French-speaking countries. And she used a source called The Onion. Are you guys familiar with The Onion? Yes, so you have to know what these resources are. And we constantly have to tell them, make sure that you know where you're getting your source. Is it reliable? Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean that it's true. Give credit. When you go out there and find something that's really great and you want to share it with people, make sure that you let them know where you got it from. And this I got from an article that I posted on the Edmodo page. I thought it was a really great article. This visual I think is kind of repetitive, and I think if you can combine certain things with each other to make it smaller so you can remember. But this is open educational resources, and the article also is in the OER Commons, and I posted it for you if you want to read it later. But that's some of the things that we have to, tell the kids about. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean that it's good, right? There's a lot of stuff out there that's not reliable, or that's just parodies. So where do I start? So I have, and Joy too, we have apps that, they run the gamut of what kinds of things we expect the kids to do. All the way from remembering, there's a flashcard app, just like regular old-fashioned flashcards, you can create them online. And then, it goes up the ladder to finally creating. And by the time you get to Maddie's level, she's in my AP class now, so she has to do an awful lot of creating. And we use like video programs for that kind of thing, where they have to come up with something that they created to demonstrate that they learned the content. And it can be, it's usually multi-layered content. But I'm going to run through them. And of course, a lot of them that we're going to show you today, a few of them are just, straight up taking notes, sending the notes to Edmodo, sending them to students. And this is really great for kids who have, special educational plans, or people who are absent, the next day. You can just give them notes. It just makes life a lot easier. So all of you, I think, are familiar with Edmodo. Edmodo is how we do everything at school. That is how the kids get their announcements. That is how they know what club that they're in that's going to meet on Thursday during Flex. That's how they know that the blood drive is next Thursday, all those things. It's also where they get their assignments, where they turn in assignments. They can also ask questions of their teachers. Let me show you real quick. This is our Edmodo page here for this group, but I have a number of groups here, and I've got mine too in French here, but like I have, for example, National French Honor Society that I sponsor. You can, post information about what you're doing in the club. Recently, we raised a bunch of money for the Heifer Foundation, and then we had to figure out, well, where are we going to put all this money? How are we going to spend the money? And did they want to buy a llama, or pigs and bees, or a goat and chicks? So they took a survey, and we're going to buy a llama. And then they can also turn in assignments, and I'll get to that in a minute. So here's a few that we've got going on here. We're going to go through Edmodo, Penultimate, maybe? Okay. Khan Academy, Socrative or Socrative. We have a debate every day when I say go to Socrative. How do you say that? Is it Socrative? I don't know. Sketchpad Explorer, Flashcardlet, and Videolicious. So there's Edmodo, and I've already taken you to our own Edmodo group, but here is where, let me show you how they turn in an assignment and how I can see whether they turned it in. For example, my French 2 class yesterday had to turn in an assignment. You click on that to see who turned it in. There it is. So these are all the people. You see the little red alarm that tells you right away that person submitted nothing. This person submitted nothing. Anyway, and you can see too, you can go into particular students and look at what they turned in, and did they actually do what I asked them to do? Well, kind of, right? So they didn't do everything. So you can quickly assess, and like, here's some English, this French class.
How do you then grade that? Once you look at that on Edmodo, how do you then annotate that form with your notes and then put a grade on it?
I can say, like, here, see this, can you guys see this comment? I can comment on it. I can do a point comment, for example. I can say, you left this blank. Please complete. You can also, if you make a mistake, you can delete it. And when you're done with this, you can go back to where their name is, and you can say, oh, you got a 50 out of 100 because you didn't complete it all the way, or whatever method that you're using.
And then that's saved?
That's saved on Edmodo, but if I want to post it on our grading software, I have to do that myself physically. I have to go on RenWeb and put the grade in.
Doesn't it email them the grade or something?
It emails them. Well, there's another thing. So on Edmodo, you can turn off your email notifications, and a lot of kids do that because they get lots of emails every day, And I say to them, who cares? All you have to do is hit delete. It doesn't apply to you, right? So I don't turn off my email notifications because I'm afraid to miss something. I get hundreds of emails every day from Edmodo. If it's not from anybody that I care about, I just hit delete. So they can do the same thing. And I insist that my students don't turn off their email notifications. So what I did just there, when I added in his grade, it would have sent him an email saying, your assignment has been graded.
Oh, sorry.
I'm the opposite side of that coin. I have my email notifications turned off. And then I got the first email from Edmodo. I said, oh, no, this is not going to work. So I cut off the notifications. I don't grade assignments from Edmodo because I'm a paper pencil person. Anything I put on Edmodo is something we're going to go over together in class, but not something I'm going to take for a grade. I need to hold it in my hand to grade it. And that's just me. And so, and people say that, Edmodo is like the Facebook of education. I don't have a Facebook page. So I had to get used to what the format looks like, but I still made it work for me. Like even not being at school today, my students have one classwork assignment that was a worksheet that I actually photocopied, and their second classwork assignment is a study guide that's on Edmodo. They're not going to submit it to me, but that's just to house the document so they can access it, and that's one less photocopy I had to make. So Edmodo can be used to, grade things and accept assignments, but it can also be used to just house your documents, which is what I use it for, because I have to have something in my hands grade.
Because that one made me nervous, like,
Yeah.
I'm used to putting things in file folders.
Right.
And I know where it is, I can go get it.
Mm-hmm.
Are you
There's
comfortable with
folders.
this?
I am, yes. And when, I know Maddie knows this, that when I ask them to post their essays, when they're in AP, when they're in French 3, starting French 3, they're required to write essays. And I need them to turn it in a certain format for me to be able to annotate it. And that is how I need to be able to do it. I prefer to grade the papers this way so that I don't have stacks of papers to take home. I have, my book bag is heavy as it is, and I don't need to weigh it down anymore. For me, it's less cumbersome to do it this way.
How do you know you haven't missed one? I mean, when you, like, if I got a stack of paper, when that stack of paper is moved from here to there, I know I'm finished.
I usually work.
How does this work on here?
Doesn't it sort it by graded and not graded?
Yes, you can do that at the top,
And
right
then that
here.
progress thing.
Right, so anything that's ungraded is there, and as you can see, I haven't graded anything yet.
And then you can go back to the assignments with that little progress heartbeat looking thing up there next to home.
So then when you translate that to RenWeb, how then do you know, how do you,
I flip back and forth between the two windows.
how do you keep your accounting straight that what you've done here, you've now done over there so that
Yeah,
person
well,
who
there's
got a zero got a
hiccups
zero?
now and then, right? So
Okay.
sometimes I create the assignment in RenWeb and I forget to create an assignment on Edmodo, and the kids are like, you didn't create an assignment.
Right.
So then, they get an extra day. So that's because I have 6 different classes, and so sometimes, yes, I forget to post the assignment either on the RenWeb side, because I've done both.
Right.
I posted the assignment, they turned it in, and I never put it on RenWeb. But, kids are like, hey, I didn't see my grade for such and such that we turned in, what's up with that? And so then they tell me
Okay.
when I
But
miss
it
it.
does have a grade book in it. If you go to the progress, it'll show you
Yes.
who's turned it in and what you've given them a grade for.
I'm trying to go in order, sorry.
Yes, sir.
On that worksheet, was that on Edmodum and then will they download it and write on it and put it back
Yes.
up again?
Yes.
Do they still have a scanner or something?
No, they download it directly to, I put up PDF files. I upload it to Edmodo and I say, download this file, just like if I can show you here, let's see.
Because it looked like it was handwritten or something.
Yeah, so they're annotating it with their, see, here's the lesson right here. Here's the file, and they click on that, and on the iPad, it asks you, maybe we can demonstrate here, it asks you, where do you want to open this file in? And I use Goodreader in my classroom, that Joy uses iAnnotate. And again, these are kind of like, Goodreader costs $10, so If you don't like it, I would want you to purchase that app and discover that you don't like it. The school bought everybody Goodreader, so that's what I have, and that's what I'm going to continue to use. But now, more and more, there are new apps out there that are free that do the same kind of thing. So, and again, like Joy said, if you need an app for something, it's probably there. It's just a matter of looking for it. Sorry.
Do you use any French apps? Because I feel like you guys use Edmodo and
Yes, I
which
do.
French apps are you using?
I use 7 jours sur la planète.
Can you put that on Edmodo?
I cannot put it on Edmodo. What do you mean? Like put the actual app on Edmodo?
No, like you said 7 apps to download, but that one's not on there.
Right, I can send you that.
Can you just put that?
Are you a
on?
French teacher?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Yay. Yes, so I have RTL, 7 jours sur la planète. I have a whole bunch. What other ones do we use, Maddie? RTL. And they change.
Yeah, can you add that as the post?
Yes, I can put that out there. Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, I'm assuming that only the student can see the mark, that
Yes.
they're not publicly posted.
Correct.
Are there any concerns about security? Edmodo is a free service, so, and I'm assuming all of your servers are stored in the United States, so they have to abide by that, right?
I'm assuming.
So you're not worried about security issues with students' personal information?
I personally am not. We have a secure server at school. For our email, we use a Google server. We switched to Gmail. So, I mean, I don't know. Those are questions that I can't answer for you. I'm not an IT person. I just know that they tell us this is good and use this, and so I use it.
Is this the only LMS your board looked at,
I don't
or
know.
your school?
This is what we're
No,
doing.
it's not.
Probably not.
Okay. I'm just wondering why that and not other ones.
It's just, I don't know, ease of use. A couple of teachers tried it out, then I tried it out too, and a bunch of us said, ooh, this is really cool, we like it. And so they said, okay, everybody's going to this. Yes, ma'am.
Just to answer your question, our Cumberland County, it's mandated that we use Edmodo because of the whole Facebook thing, students and teachers, people getting fired and all that. So we have to use that, and it's across the board. It's a platform similar to Facebook, it's just like that. But the only thing, it's only teacher to student. It's nothing else. Teacher to student, teacher to parent, because your parents can actually look on it, and those marks that she did on the paper, the parents is able to do that once you give the parent the code. But like I said, it's regulated. Security is 100%. They can't get into your account. They can't kind of, do anything else because it's only teacher to student, teacher to parent. It's never going to be student to student or anything like that.
And it's housed at wherever the IT work is done for the school district. They monitor it, so it is secure, so it's not as if someone can just kind of hack if you will.
And the kids can post things on there, like if they have a question, they can post something. I've used Edmodo as like a discussion board sometimes, where they have to, I post a question and they answer it in writing. So, and then they can respond to something that somebody else said. There's been a number of times when somebody's posted a question and I've not seen it, and maybe, I know at least one time Ann has seen it before I saw it and answered the question for that student. So that's, you get students like Maddie and Ann who are very helpful, and we'll go ahead and step in for that.
Yeah, and just let me add to that, because it's mandated for our school, we have an administrator over it, which means we have a Cumberland County Edmodo, because Edmodo is just out there, but we've adopted it. So we, in our county, in our district, we have a Cumberland County. So every time a teacher comes aboard, they have to get the Cumberland County code to be a part of the district.
And
So-
then the administrator can monitor
Right,
everything that's being
right.
posted within that. So
Exactly.
teachers have to be.
Because we have an administrator
all of
per
their classes
school,
show up, every
and then an
student account
administrator
shows up,
over
and it's
the
all-
account as a whole.
So you haven't gone to a cowboy, it's all.
Right. It's,
Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to go back to what he was asking about the grading. In our district, we use Power Teacher, Power School for all our grading and stuff. And we were told that Edmodo is actually working on
rolling out in something soon to integrate that with PowerSchool so that we can then take the grades from here and it goes straight into the grade book and we don't have to go back and forth. Yeah, that's what we said.
I would make one comment about the parent thing. As a parent, I can get an Edmodo code for my daughter, and then I get all her assignments. Now, that may drive you crazy, all right, if you're a parent, but if you've got one of those like really anal parents who's always on you because you gave their child a 0 and they're lying, then they can sign up and they're gonna get all the email notifications for every assignment that you give their child. So you can say, well, you got the option, there it is, use it, no excuses.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Edmodo, it's kind of my first experience with it. It sounds like it's a pretty vital part of the iPad environment. Like you have RenWeb, so some sort of like, to me, it's kind of, you know, we have trouble, we have to use RenWeb at our school also, so we have, you know, trying to get assignments and stuff and communicate with the parents, those things. And it seems like now you're getting 2 separate systems.
Yep.
And so is it like, some people use Edmodo and some people just use RenWeb, they use RenWeb for everything, or you got to use?
That's non-negotiable. You must use RenWeb because that's the official way that kids receive grades. So we must post every day to RenWeb all of our assignments on a daily basis. And then if you want to, I do it, and it's kind of a pain, but I post assignments to Edmodo as well.
What, the rest of the staff, or some not using Edmodo at all, or some?
Well,
This is my first year using it. I just started using it this year. I'm sure there are some teachers who might still not use it.
So since it's your first year, is it worth it for you to have those 2 kind of different things going on?
Yes.
Or is it?
Yes. I know it seems like double work sometimes, but like I grade stuff paper pencil, so I only put grades in RenWeb. I don't put grades in Edmodo and RenWeb. So RenWeb is not optional. Edmodo is. And I get what you're saying. It seems like double work, but that's, you know, each teacher gets to make that decision. But RenWeb is not optional for us, so we have to post it in RenWeb.
And really, I mean, I cut and paste a lot, you know, between RenWeb. And the way that it has helped me is when we have those parent conferences where somebody's mad because they got a 0, and I'm like, well, they got an email from me personally, then it's on RenWeb, and it's on Edmodo. Short of doing it for them, I don't know what else I need to do to get them to turn in that assignment. So it kind of covers you threefold. And yes, it is sometimes, there are weeks where you're just like, oh my gosh, did I do this?
Students gravitate towards one or the other when you?
Students tend to not like RenWeb. That's been my experience. They do not go to RenWeb. They do not go look for their assignments on RenWeb. That's there for the parents. The parents can check grades, and then the parents can say, oh, Jimmy, did you do your Algebra 1 homework? Yes. Oh, did you do this page? Yeah, and let me see it. Right? So that's a way for parents to be able to check up on their child. But I have to say that the kids, other than going out there to see what their grades are, they don't use RenWeb. Am I right, Ann?
Yeah.
It's generally true. You guys, what you want to chime in? Do you use RenWeb?
Usually just to check my grades, but mainly for checking my homework or what's been posted, I usually use Edmodo.
Y'all like it better?
It's,
No.
Yeah, I like it a lot. But RenWeb is good for checking grades.
I just wanted to address the security thing for Edmodo as well. I've been using Edmodo for a few years now, and when the students sign up for Edmodo, they really don't need any information to sign up except for a username and a password, and that's it. And the email is optional, and so they don't have to have an email address to log into Edmodo. It's optional. So that's all they need is a username and password and a group code that you'll create whenever you create your groups on Edmodo. And the good thing about Edmodo too is that you can split up your classes into small groups within your class. And so my kids have liked Edmodo, and I've liked grading stuff on Edmodo. It's a lot quicker for me personally to grade stuff on Edmodo, and I'm an English teacher, so.
is there a manual way to turn on that?
You have the remote.
I don't have.
The button on
No,
the side. Should be right side button, shouldn't it? I'm gonna go grab Mr. Cheney real quick.
All right, I'm sorry. We need to get through this. Okay, so penultimate. I use this app, and I have about half of the kids who use this and half of the kids who don't. This is my note-taking app. You can create a number of different notebooks depending on what class you're teaching. And then at the end of every day, I email the notebook to myself and then I post the notes on Edmodo. That's what I do every single day, every time we take notes. And this is what it looks like. I use a stylus. And you know, you have graph paper, you have, if you're a media person, there's even a storyboard thing that you can do. There's big graph paper if you want to show them how to graph lines. And there's blank paper. Anyway, so this is my note-taking app. The way that I share it with my student is two ways. I share it by PDF document, and I share it through a penultimate document. If they go out there and get it from as a penultimate document, they can import it directly into their app, and they don't have to recopy anything. And, sorry.
How do you switch, like, if you're showing, like, is it easy to switch between that when you want them to write something down in your slides or whatever, or you don't generally use a slideshow?
I don't usually use a slideshow, but it is easy, like if you wanted to flip back and forth. For example, I go to my, there's my penultimate, and there's my French 2 from 6th period. And if I want to send that to, well, it doesn't show you here, but I get a little pop-up window. I click on the mail button. I email it to myself, that page, or you can email the entire document, the entire notebook to yourself by hitting the little arrow key at the bottom. Email it. And do you want PDF or penultimate? And that doesn't show up on the screen, but you have those two options.
How is this preferable to Evernote? Because I see that this is an Evernote product.
This is preferable because you can write whatever you want to. Evernote has to be typing. I use Evernote for my personal professional stuff because we get a lot of documents and it's a nice way for me to organize those things. But in terms of delivering instruction, I prefer this because I don't have to, ahead of time, make up my notes. I can do it as I go.
Can you add video or recording?
You can't add video, but you can add pictures.
No, it's good. Just need to turn my camera a little bit.
Not on, you can on Evernote.
Yeah.
So no, I can't. So there are other, yes, there's other programs out there where you can narrate as you're going along, yes. So, but I don't use those.
Just thinking about students with learning difficulties.
Yes.
That would be helpful.
So there are apps out there like Educreations. There's Screenshot, and there's a bunch of them out there, and a lot of them are free. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to say, because it isn't Evernote, you can share it, and when you go in there, you say open page, and you can send it to Evernote, what you've written, and put it in Evernote. So there you go.
So here I can switch between programs. If I'm giving a PowerPoint and I want them, I never give PowerPoints, but in case that you do, you can switch between your programs easily by double-clicking your home button and choosing whatever window you want to go into. And then Khan Academy, I don't use it very much myself, but Khan Academy is a way that you can deliver, it's like flipped instruction, right? You can ask them to watch a video of physics or chemistry, or they have all different kinds of, you see all that, math, science, economics, finance, humanities, and then coach resources. Those are great ways for you to figure out how to use Khan Academy in your classroom. You can have stations where the kids, you have certain kids that are grouped ability group together, they can work on something, then they can rotate using Khan Academy. So there's all those resources available to you out there. And I use Socrative, and Joy uses Socrative.
Actually, just used it for the first time yesterday, and I liked it. So we'll try. It was, and I'm one of those people that's real hesitant about how much work it's going to take, especially in math class, especially with diagrams and images and things that you want them to write on it. But the first quiz that I created, which is the 5-question multiple choice quiz, it took me about 2 minutes to create it, and then I can save it and use it, forever after that. So I used it for the first time yesterday, and I was impressed with how it works and the feedback that you get from students. And I think that's the one thing I've learned about iPads that I like about them. If I gave them a 5-question quiz on a piece of paper, they would look at it and moan and groan, write whatever they wanted to write. But because it was on the device, they were like, quiz. They dove right into it. Whereas, and I think I got better grades because it was a Socrative quiz than I would have if I just handed them a piece of paper. Because anything you give them on that iPad, they jump right into it. Even though it's work, it's still the same work they would have been doing.
So here, I don't use Socrative or Socrative to give them a long test. All I'm using it for right now is I give them a weekly listening assignment, which they hate, and at the end of the week, they have to show me that they went out there and they listened to it and that they understood the material. And so you have your room number. This is you. You'll be logging in and you'll be given a room number. But I thought I was really clever and I changed my room number to 24601. So Les Mis reference. Anyway, but you can create different kinds of tests: multiple choice, true, false, short answer, and you can start your teacher-made quiz. For example, you can go to a saved quiz, and I've got, see all these set Joule quizzes that I do weekly, and maybe I ask them to do a student pace quiz, and there it's out there, and I can see live results of who's coming into my classroom and how far along they are on the quiz. At the end of the activity, I can hit end. And then it'll ask me, do you want an email report, or do you want to download the report, or do you want no report? And so I always choose the email option because typically I don't have time to look at it right away. And then I'll get a detailed report at my own email address that I can look at later and then grade the students that way. But I think this is it's very fast to do. You can create a quiz in about 5 minutes, even less, if you already know what you're going to ask.
Once the quiz is done, does it save on a particular program?
No. It asks you, do you want to report? Oh, you mean the test itself, the quiz?
The results.
The results, no. You'll get that.
You get an email that resets.
Yes.
Okay. You say one each one.
You can also go back. I've done this before where I've forgotten to email myself the report, and I can go back. As long as I've not done another activity, I can have them send me another report from the previous activity.
Yeah, the report, is it just their grades or the actual quiz?
It's the actual quiz, and it tells me, okay, Anne got question 1 wrong, but she got 2, 3, 4, and 5 right. Or, this is what she answered for this question. This was the actual and correct answer. So it really gives you a lot of feedback in a short amount of time. And I think it's a great tool just to assess whether they did the assignment. Yes.
With this, I know on the Edmodo, when you create an assessment, it will break down each question, like a percentage of how many kids got it right and wrong and stuff. Does this do that as well?
No. It will give me a breakdown of each individual student and what they answered and how many they got right and how many they got wrong.
Okay.
If I want to go back, it's kind of easy because it's an Excel spreadsheet that you get, so you can see in each column how many got them right, how many got it wrong. And this is there's a student clicker and there's a teacher clicker. So you'll want to download the teacher clicker. And all the students will download the student clicker. And it's absolutely free.
So when delivering instruction, the app that I like to use is iAnnotate, and again, it's a paid app, it's $9.99, but it's the best $9.99 I've spent. And I'm gonna put it on the Apple TV. Mine doesn't actually look like that. So I will, and again, I'm pretty old school, so they get a lot of paper pencil stuff, and I have, as a math teacher, decide whether or not I think the activity is conducive to do digitally, or whether or not I think they need a paper copy of it. And it really boils down to whether or not I think it's easy to annotate. But the app is called iAnnotate, and so this was doing properties parallelograms. That's my lovely handwriting there. And so the students had a hard copy of this particular document, but usually when I'm teaching, I actually have to stand in the back of the room, and the Apple TV is in the front of the room. It allows me to circulate. So while I'm teaching and while we're going over the answers, I'm walking around the room. I usually kind of land in the back of the room, because what can you see from the back of the room? What everybody's doing on their iPad. So I usually stand back here and teach, and so it's up at the front of the room, and it's on the screen there. I had to play around with a couple of different apps. So the first app that I was given to try was Ghostwriter. Couldn't get Ghostwriter to work for me. So I think when you're finding an annotation app, the trick is to find an app that works for you. I couldn't figure out how to get the pins to show up. I couldn't figure out how to get the document to move. I couldn't figure out anything. So I was like, okay, Ghostwriter's not going to work. I like iAnnotate because when I played with it, the things that I do naturally, like scrolling, like zooming in and zooming out, like finding pencil to use and then picking the color that I want to use with it. So let's say I'm going to use blue because I want you to see something different on the screen. It was very intuitive to use. If I mess up, I can hit the back button, it'll delete whatever I put there. If I do scan a document that shows up sideways, it has the functions that will allow you to rotate. I can't see that here, but it will allow you to rotate the document, because sometimes you scan stuff sideways, and I'm like, oh, that's upside down, but I just click on it, and I rotate it, and I'm done. So I use this pretty much every day in my classroom. If we're going over whether they have a paper copy of it or whether they have a digital copy of it, all I have to do is scan it, open it from my email, and then open it in iAnnotate and go from there. So, yes, ma'am.
I'm guessing that if you wanted to go paperless, you can put this up on there, the kids can download it, annotate it, and then send it back.
Yes, so then with this, if I have students that are absent and they're like, can I get the answers to that homework assignment, I can then email them that document, a flattened version of that document, and they'll get it. Or, they just come to me one day during Flex, I'll just hand them my iPad and they can just, read the answers off the screen. But yeah, so while they're in Goodreader or whatever annotation device they're using, I'm using iAnnotate, yes.
If you don't have
It's not gonna work. If you have some sort of projection device, it'll work. So if you have a smart board or, just a regular projector, it'll work.
Yeah, internet charge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not wireless.
there's
Yeah.
But it's not wireless.
No, it's not.
You can do,
Sorry?
you can do apps to wireless with your iPad on the screen. That's what we're doing right now. I have a smart board.
Yeah, we don't have,
I'm just saying in general that, yeah.
Yes, you
wireless.
can, yes. With the Apple TV, with the smart board, you can do everything wirelessly. But if all you have is those data projectors,
Okay.
you can just hook up, there are cords that you can, in fact, up until, I don't remember when I got my Apple TV, it might have been last year. But before that, all I had was the projector, and I used the cord. Oh, sorry.
You said there's an app.
If you have a computer, if you have I have a laptop with a projector, a PC,
Right.
I can project this onto my board.
Through
Through wireless, through internet, yeah, through
Okay.
Wi-Fi.
Question about this. Do your students use this, or do you use a different one?
I use Goodreader.
Most of my students are using Goodreader because that's what they have on their iPad.
Now, the other question is, is the school paying for each student to access that, or do you pay once? And that gives every student the access to annotate things?
If the student has the app, that means that the school has purchased the app for those students. So for example, let's say I want my students to have a certain app and it costs $2.99. All of my students would have the app that I wanted for $2.99, and with iTunes you can get volume discounts. Say you purchase more than 20, then you get them at half price. So for Joy, she has 100 and some odd students. If she wants to have iAnnotate, well, the school will accommodate that, because instead of being $10 a person, it'll just be $5 a person. And these apps, when the kids graduate, we still have that app. It's just stored somewhere, and then it can be passed on to a different student. Then we have Sketchpad Explorer, which I do not use, but Joy does.
And this is a specific math app, and so come to my session later, we'll explore Sketchpad Explorer some more. But if you remember old, but the original, if you will, Geometer Sketchpad. It's the app version of Geometer Sketchpad. And the thing that's neat about this particular app is that everything that you see on the screen can be manipulated. The students can move it around, can make it smaller, can make it bigger. You can even move the words around on the screen. And it gives you lots of feedback. And so I'll talk about that more in the math session, but I like it because it's free and it is interactive and it does give the students the feedback. And we can get caught up just playing with stuff on the screen.
And Flashcardlet is an app that I use as a foreign language student. We always have new vocabulary, as a foreign language teacher, sorry. But whatever subject you teach, if you have a specific set of vocabulary, this is a good way for them to make electronic flashcards that they can study from. They can study with each other at home. Like when they're at home, away at each other, at their own homes, they can have study sessions with each other through Quizlet or Brainscape. So they sign up with an account through either Quizlet or Brainscape, and then they can download the cards directly to their iPads. They can also create cards directly onto their iPad without having to create any new account, and they just have them there physically on their own iPad. And the last app that I want to show you is called Videolicious, and I use it a lot this year. It's free, and it's a way for you to create, or students to create, a 1-minute video, and they narrate different pictures. They can use existing videos. They can be on the camera themselves, like a little news anchor, and deliver whatever you want them to deliver. And it's really easy to create. It takes I created a 1-minute video last year just to promote a certain activity that we're doing in the French classroom every year, and it took me maybe 10 minutes to create it. But here's one that one of my students created, and they were supposed to demonstrate.
Ensuite, j'irai à la salle de bain qu'il nettoie la toilette et qu'il lave les mains. Après les mains, il faut que je porte les glaces et que je suis dedans.
So they just had to create a video showing me that they could not only use the subjunctive on paper and pencil, but also speak it. So they thought that this assignment was fun. They got to take pictures, and it was very easy, very little to learn in terms of new stuff to make it go.
I'm sure to download right now, but do you know if it can they annotate over a YouTube video, for example? Can they put a video?
They can bring in an existing video. Yes, they should.
From here, maybe I'll shoot it from YouTube or.
I think that will depend on what your school parameters are. I think at our school, YouTube is not allowed anymore.
Right. No, so it's not for us. I'm just curious because I had a teacher who was talking about this last week and way to annotate over or speak over.
You can bring in existing video. Yes, you sure can. Yes. Explain everything. And again, this is Videolicious. It's a 1 minute it's only 1 minute and it's free. But, you know, there's other apps out there. I like this app because then what they do when they're finished with it, they post it to YouTube. And we have a private YouTube account for my French classes, and only the parents are able to access that YouTube channel, and the students.
I like that it limits them because it forces them to focus on the topic at hand and not get overly long and all over the place.
And I've got other students, you know, more advanced students who just this year created a more elaborate video, not using Videolicious, but using other means. And they did a great job. It was a 3-minute video and a lot more advanced than what you just saw there. You know, it just depends on what you want them to do. These are just some basic things that we put together. They're tried and true. I use them. Joy uses them. We like them. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for you. You have to find what you like. And I have to admit that a lot of times, you know, people said, oh, go try out this app, like Educreation. I'm not good with that. I don't know why. I'm not good at it. There's something about it that doesn't work with me. And although I know a lot of people at my school that use it, I just don't. So for me, it was a dud. And there have been other things that I found out there that were duds. You know, oh, go out there and find such and such. Oh, and you go out there and find it. You know, have you been to those websites where there's just like hundreds of links, right? And you're like, whoa. I can't possibly go to every one of those and see what is good. One resource that I'll share with you. I think we are. Sorry, I'm trying to hurry. And I have this thing called Learnist, and I love Learnist because it allows me to curate websites and put them in different categories. And it's kind of like Pinterest. Here are my boards. This is kind of like Pinterest where you create a board. I have 22 boards, each with different categories. So for example, in the AP classroom, I have 6 different themes that I have to teach throughout the year. And so I've got a bunch of websites, for example, that are connected directly to this theme, global challenges. That you can create any board that you want. I have even boards that have nothing to do with education. Like I have one on here for type 1 diabetes. I have one for fitness. You know, so whatever you want to learn about, there's a way for you to group all your websites together. And instead of telling your kids, hey, go out there and find something, right? You can say, okay, I'm going to send you to this link right here, and you're going to go to this board, and those are the only websites that you're allowed to go to because they've been vetted by me, and I know that the information is reliable. So this resource is, if anybody's interested in this, I can post that to Edmodo as well. But you create your own account, and if you teach whatever subject you teach, you know, you can create different boards that have to do with whatever topic that you're covering that day, that week, that month, or whatever. And that's a safe way, instead of saying free-for-all, oh, go Google such and such. And so you know that they're not going to find inappropriate material, that they're only going to go to the websites that you want them to go to. Today. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
This is kind of a big question, but how do you think this has changed your approach to teaching, having an iPad in the classroom?
I think it doesn't limit me to where I can do my work. I can do it from anywhere. If I'm waiting on somebody, like my daughter has a violin lesson on Tuesday, and my other daughter has a piano lesson on Monday, and when I take them to those lessons, I'm not stuck to, grading my papers and taking out my papers. I can do, provided I have an internet connection, which usually I do, I can go out there and do work. It also, I can expect my kids, for example, when I want them to do a listening activity for foreign language, I can say, hey, you need to go out there and listen to this, and I want you to do this tonight. If they don't have an internet connection at home, they can download it to their iPad and it's there. It just opens up different ways to accomplish the same thing. It doesn't restrict you like paper and pencil can. And in the past, listening activities, we had those CDs. If you don't have the CDs, well, tough luck. If your kid is absent and you did the listening activity yesterday, good luck trying to get them to come in and, re-listen to that track that you listened to. Now, if I do use the CDs, I can upload it and share it with the kids, and they can download it to their iPads, and it's there for them. Also, in terms of organization, like I said, I've never lost student work, but boy, I've been nervous about it once or twice. So in this way, that's helped me stay focused and organized.
It has definitely made me more organized because I'll photocopy a worksheet and then put it off to the staff, and then that time next year we can look for that same worksheet, but now it's saved digitally. And with the Apple TV, it allowed me to be a more mobile feature. I'm not strapped to the front of the room with my overhead projector. I can walk around the room and make sure the students are doing what they're supposed to do, interact with them, pop up behind them and look over their shoulder and see what they're doing. But I was super resistant to it, but now that I've got it, I'm much more open to change, much more open to learning, and much more patient. So like when the Wi-Fi goes out and have to switch to the whiteboard, I can just switch back to the whiteboard, so it's good to go in and go back and forth.
You kids want to give your input about how the iPad has changed the way you are students? I'm putting you on the spot now.
If you guys have any questions, I will answer as from the perspective of students. We use this every day. We determine our homework.
I like Edmodo because some teachers grade it and have these grades and it's really easy to turn things in.
And what we were talking about earlier, not all teachers use the grades on Edmodo. They are required to put your grades in RenWeb officially. You don't have to put grades in Edmodo like Ms. Clark was saying. She only uses it to store documents and things, and that's just how we turn in our work. Yeah.
How's the dynamics change between students in terms of temptations to cheat or to manipulate the system?
Mostly, we have a little joke. If kids actually spend as much time trying to get around the web filter as they do doing their homework, they'll be done half the time. But we have based on our contract that we have and the things that we're not supposed to do and the things that we are supposed to do, most of the students know. And if you don't do those things that you're supposed to do, well, your grades are going to suffer. And also, Mr. Cheney, Mr. Hall, and your parents are going to have a little meeting. And that's not good. But as far as cheating, most tests that we take actually are still pen and paper, so there's no temptation there. And teachers can always say, okay, we're going to do a lesson, we're going to take tests today, put your iPad on your desk. So, for Socrative, doesn't it tell you if you switch between apps?
And you can't just get out of Socrative. You can't go back and forth.
So if you are taking tests or quizzes on apps, usually those apps that you use, they'll tell you if the student has, I'm going to go look up the answer on Google. But, so as far as cheating and everything, I don't think it's been a huge problem, mostly because a lot of websites that kids might use to cheat or use to mess around on, they're usually blocked. We're not allowed.
You brings up a good point. I let them have their iPad on their desk when they're supposed to test an app. class, like why we use a calculator